fair bit of reported Spurs news to get through today, including suggestions from reputable journalists that Tottenham are looking to get compensation if Manchester City are found guilty of the 115 charges. We're also apparently definitely looking to bring a new keeper in this summer, and Pedro Porres had his say on links with him and the Galacticos of Real Madrid. All this and more on today's episode of the Spurred On podcast. Just want to talk a little bit before I get into that news, guys. I'm going to be doing my first live watch-along on BigUp, which is a new live streaming platform. This is going to be for the England versus Ireland game. Sunday at 5 p.m, I'm going to be doing that live watch-along. So come over, and the best thing about BigUp is not only can you chat to me on text in the comments in the chat, but also you can call in. You can come into the green room and speak to me during the watch-along. So definitely come and find me on BigUp. The link is in the description box below, and that will be on Sunday at 5 p.m, and I'll be doing more watch-alongs on BigUp after that. But let's get into today's Tottenham news. And Tottenham have lodged legal notices reserving the rights to seek compensation if Manchester City are found guilty of the serious charges out of those 115 alleged breaches of Premier League financial rules. The other clubs who have lodged these legal notices are Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. I think it's interesting because, of course, lots of people straight away on Twitter in the comments all saying, oh, typical Daniel Levy, just looking for money. But if you look at it, logically, in reality, Manchester City, if they are found guilty of having cheated the system, and let's face it, I think we're all expecting at least some level of guilt to be proven, then they will have stopped other clubs from the financial rewards of coming above them in the league table. Also potentially some trophy winning. For instance, Man City, of course, beat Spurs in the League Cup final under Ryan Mason a few years ago when Jose Mourinho had just been sacked. And I guess in reality, when you think about it and how Sheffield United were able to win, I think £20 million in compensation from West Ham because West Ham were found to have been guilty of breaking the rules regarding having Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano and shared ownership, basically. With that as kind of a setting for compensation possibilities, then of course, if you're a club like Manchester United, like Liverpool, like Spurs, like Arsenal, you are going to look at the legal ramifications. And therefore, I think it just shows good business rather than anything else. I don't know. Let me know, like I said in the comments, what do you think? Maybe you think it looks embarrassing on Spurs? I personally don't. A lot of what Manchester City have done, allegedly, has been during the years where Tottenham were at their peak under Mauricio Pochettino. And therefore, if Tottenham would have won far more trophies or got higher up in the league and deserve money from that, I think they should push it, especially if that's money that then can be reinvested into the football club. But I value, everybody knows, everyone thinks differently and not everybody will agree with me. Next up, Spurs have requested that their South Korean signing, the exciting young winger Yang Min-hyuk, starts training with the team from December, that's mid-December, rather than coming to the club in January as expected. Spurs expressed during negotiations in the summer apparently that the player would immediately become a member of the first team upon arrival, and the request for his early arrival is seen as a further sign that the player could get his chance sooner rather than later. Well, of course, we are struggling on the wings. We've got Timo Werner there. Lots of discussion amongst the fans as to whether Werner's loan should be cut short in January. And maybe Yang Min-hyuk can come in and really put some pressure on the likes of Brennan Johnson, the likes of Son Heung-min. Mikey Moore is, of course, an option, although he's been ill recently. And the way it works is that Yang Min-hyuk has played loads of games, actually. I think about 38 games in the Korean season this year. He's won Player of the Month and Young Player of the Month, I think something like 5 or 6 times. He's had an amazing season. Lots of goals, lots of assists. And I think the plan was to let him have a bit of a break after the end of the season, which comes this month, and then have him come into Spurs in January. But I think because of big Ange Postecoglou's, let's say, I don't know, maybe doubts or certainly unsurety about those wide players in the forward positions for Spurs, maybe he's saying to the kid, come in a bit earlier, get acclimatised from mid-December, and then when we can potentially start having you in the squad from January onwards, you can come and prove it to us on the training ground. If you're good enough, you will get a chance. So it sounds like good news as far as I'm concerned. He does look like an exciting young talent, but I would be a little hesitant for any of us fans to get too excited because, of course, as we always see with players coming from abroad, but especially young players, it does take a while to acclimatise to the rigours of English football, to the Premier League, to the cup competitions. And even if you take the best Korean player of all time, Son Heung-min, into account, even after the first season at Spurs, when he did play a number of games under Pochettino, he did score some goals, but he said in that summer after his first season that he wanted to leave. He didn't feel like he'd properly acclimatised. He didn't feel like he was getting enough opportunities in the Tottenham first team. And thankfully, we stuck with him, and he became basically one of the biggest legends this club has ever seen, one of the faces of this football club. So all I'm saying is, when it comes to Min-hyuk, let's not expect too much too soon, but sure, absolutely, let's give him a chance, and let's get him in and see if he can put pressure on the likes of Johnson and Sonny and Mikey Moore, and if Timo Werner stays, him as well. As I mentioned in the top, Pedro Porro has given some quotes while he's on international duty with Spain about those links with him and Los Blancos, Real Madrid, the Galacticos. He said the following: "My friends send me the rumours, it's a compliment, but I'm focused on Spurs and the national team. It is the result of a job well done if one of the best clubs in the world is taking notice of me." I think that's kind of common sense, what he's saying. I mean, clearly, any Spanish player, pretty much any player in the world, would be interested in playing for Real Madrid. However, what I would say to both Pedro Porro and Christian Romero at the moment, both players who have been linked with Real Madrid, I would say important that in the rest of this season, you get your form up for Tottenham Hotspur. Make sure that your form leads to wins. And then maybe in the summer, if Real Madrid have the money to come in for both of you or one of you, sure, then we can discuss it. Then we can negotiate and maybe you can get your moves. But if the form is as inconsistent as it has been for Spurs, and granted with Pedro Porro, he has been worked to the bone as a result of Jed Spence not being included in that Europa League squad, and as a result of us not really having enough fullbacks to cover both sides, Pedro Porro has played, I'd say, too many minutes, and therefore his form in the last few games has dropped off a little bit. But certainly in terms of Christian Romero, I'd be saying, cut out the inconsistency, cut out these moments where you lose concentration leading to goals. And then sure, if you have a great rest of the season, a high average rating, then, maybe then you could get your move for big money if Real Madrid are willing to pay it. But at the moment, Romero, unfortunately, his form has massively dropped off. That's affecting Tottenham Hotspur. And that's why we're in 10th at the moment, rather than where we should be, which is in 3rd place in the league at least. Meanwhile, Spurs have started the process to activate the clause to extend Son Heung-min's contract until June 2026. His contract runs out this summer, but he has a +1 option, which is the club's decision to make, and they have started that process. So it will be at least one more season at Spurs for Sonny. I know he's not at his consistent best right now, Heung-min Son, but he's still the player that you want to be on the end of your chances. He's still the player you want to be cutting in from the left and shooting into the far left-hand corner of the goal, and he's still got enough in the tank, I think, to get another longer-term deal at Spurs, if indeed he wanted that. But who knows with Sonny? Maybe he'd like one last big move, one big payday over to Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that, maybe the MLS after 2026. It remains to be seen. But as I've said on numerous occasions on these videos, my suggestion for Spurs is sign him up to a 10-year deal. He can play for as long as he wants, and then after that he can become a coach, he can become an attacking coach, or he can become an ambassador for the club. But this is a man who has been the face of the club for over a decade now, and we should keep him there if we can. He's been a legendary figure for this club, and listen, I love Sonny, and he will still score many important goals this season. Of that, I have no doubt. Over to some player potential transfer news. Both Juventus and Napoli are interested in Radu Dragusin, but apparently that is only on a potential loan deal in January, and Spurs' stance on that loan deal is an obstacle. They don't want to let him go on loan. Dragusin, apparently, according to Gianluca Di Marzio, says he can be a solution for both Napoli and Juventus this January, even if Tottenham would not want to send him out on loan. So possibility that they would come in with some money there. Listen, I said it earlier this week. I was a bit angry after the loss to Ipswich, and I said Dragusin clearly just not good enough. Maybe he's even not necessarily any better than Eric Dyer. I've calmed a little bit. I think important to remember, Radu Dragusin, still a young man, 22, 23 years old, in his first full season in the Premier League, and his first real time of getting rhythm in his legs, by which I mean game after game after game, and it is going to take time. He's a great box defender, by which I mean in the air, getting blocks in. He's brilliant at that, but The problem with Dragusin at the moment is that Ange Postecoglou's system is not best suited to him in terms of his lack of comfort on the ball and some of the passes he's being expected to play in between the lines, in brave areas, when he's kind of got his back to goal, etc., being asked to take it in difficult scenarios. So that's where he needs to improve. Hopefully he can improve. I trust Ange Postecoglou that he knows that if a player is not going to ever suit his system, then he will be ruthless and cutthroat and say, let's get some money for him. And if that's the case with Dragusin, then I would expect that. Obviously, we've got Vuskovic coming in. He's on loan at Westerlo. He's still a young boy, 17, 18 years old. He's coming in the summer, so he will add some more pressure. But maybe this is all leading to Tottenham having to buy another centre-back, a more comfortable ball-playing centre-back at some point soon, be that January or next summer. One thing I would say that would be pretty depressing, actually, would be if we sold Dragusin, tried to get some of our money back because he's not comfortable on the ball enough to play under Big Ange's system, but then Ange lost his job at some point within the 6 months after, and then we got in a manager who wanted his back four to basically remain defensive, in which case we would have made a mistake, because Dragusin, in terms of the defensive attributes needed from a centre-half, is excellent, but obviously that's a lot of hypotheticals we're talking about. So hopefully the club's strategy in terms of the future, in terms of signings and the style of play will all mesh together, and that is a mistake that we won't make. Radu Dragusin's agent, who we all know is a bit of a motor mouth, his name's Florin Manea, he said this. He says he's focused on the rest of the season. He wants to do well with Tottenham. In terms of potential summer interest, I learn about it from the Italian newspapers. I honestly don't know anything about it. With Juventus, as far as I'm concerned, there have been no contact. As always, the final say in these cases will be up to the club he belongs to, but the boy, Dragusin, is happy here at Tottenham. Well, that's good news. His agent is usually trying to engineer a move for Dragusin away from Spurs, so good to hear him at the moment say that Dragusin's happy, and I for one want to see Dragusin improve on the pitch, and if he continues to get game time, I'm sure he will, although of course Mickey van der Ven hopefully back fit after the international break. According to Alistair Gold, the brilliant Alistair Gold, if you don't follow Alistair Gold on Twitter or his YouTube channel, make sure you do, give him a subscribe. He says that Spurs are likely to buy a goalkeeper in the summer to provide backup and competition to Guillermo Vicario. They could, apparently, according to Gold, even make a move in January if the right opportunity presented itself. Guys, let me know in the comments below in terms of keepers you'd like to see us signing. Who would you like to see us get through the door? You've got to work out, realistically, based on what they spent on Vicario, which I think was about 17 million, it seems unlikely to me that for a backup or for a competition keeper for him, they would be willing to go anywhere near, certainly nowhere above £10 million. I'd say they'd be looking to spend £5 million absolute max. So I guess what you're looking at there really is a young, talented, potential goalkeeper who is exciting. So let me know in the comments if you have any in mind. Archie Gray could apparently soon be handed the chance to play in his natural position, that being in the 6, just in front of the back four. And that is because of the news coming out this week that it looks likely, more than ever, according to the rumours coming out of the FA, that Rodrigo Bentancur's ban for his racist comment in the direction of Son Heung-min will be 7 games total. So that is what might allow Archie Gray to have some game time in the 6. Obviously, we've got Yves Bissouma there as well. Listen, I've talked about this too many times already. Our hands are up when it comes to Rodrigo Bentancur. He made a mistake. He's admitted his mistake. He's apologised to Sonny. Sonny, I think, has given character references and mitigating circumstances, but Bentancur just has to accept whatever ban comes his way. And if it's 7 games, we're just going to have to swallow that. We're just going to have to suck it up and utilise Gray and Bissouma for all the games that he misses. Finally, some quotes came out from Ange Postecoglou. Actually, it's not final. I'm going to talk about one more thing after this. But some quotes came out from Ange Postecoglou before the Ipswich game about his kind of dealings with Daniel Levy and his long-term thoughts about the club. I thought I'd bring them to you now. That for me, I don't know about you, but I'm a little calmer after the Ipswich game now. I'm a little kind of less angry than I was earlier in the week. I'm still livid about it, but I'm able to look ahead and think, okay, we are still only 3 points off third place, so let's chill. So I'm going to bring you these quotes now. Ange said this. He said, "My dealings with Daniel," as in Levy at the club, They haven't changed from the moment I took on this task. I know what ambitions I have for this football club, and there's been nothing here that I've felt has curtailed me achieving what I want to achieve for the club. A lot of that is in my own power. I control a lot of it. The rest of it is trying to get people along for the ride and to believe in what we're trying to do. So I think you could look at that a couple of ways. One is that Ange Postecoglou is being positive and saying, everything is as I expected it. Nobody's trying to stitch me up in the boardroom. I'm getting everything I need. But then you could look at that last quote, which is about getting people along for the ride to try and believe in what we're trying to do. Maybe is he angling that a little bit at the boardroom and saying, I need a bit more money. I need a little bit more buy-in. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. A lot of obviously anti-Daniel Levy, anti-Enoch sentiment in the comments. I understand that. Everybody is absolutely allowed to have their own opinion. But for me, if Big Ange Postecoglou is saying that he's getting everything he needs, then that's enough for me. He also said this: sustained success is what I talk about a lot. It's a lot deeper than just winning a trophy. When you're at a club of this size that hasn't won, people think that's the missing piece. But what I've been trying to rail against since I've been here is that it's not just the missing piece. It's about more than that. It's about a clear idea of what you're going to build, how you're going to build, and staying true to that. The biggest part of that is whatever sort of comes at you externally. It's not important what people say about you, it's how you respond to it. That's much more important, both positive and negative, your response to it. Unless you have a clear idea of what you're trying to do, you'll be jumping at shadows all the time. So I could be going, let's just win a trophy this season and everything will be fine. But if we win a trophy, finish 10th, and 5 games into next year I get sacked, not that it's about me, but then the club has to change direction again. So have you really done anything? I don't think so. That's where I tried to stay really clear on for us as a club. We know that we want to achieve sustained success. Does that include trophies? Absolutely. But it's not going to be one simple thing that opens the floodgates. I don't believe that. Now, I have to say, I agree with Ange Postecoglou here 100%. And I've been talking about this for a while. People talk about trophies as if that's it. But it's not it. If we win one League Cup, do you really think that's going to get the opposition fans off our back? Of course it's not. Don't forget, Arsenal won the FA Cup under Mikel Arteta, and everybody still tried to get Arteta out. They laughed at him, and it wasn't until he really changed it round, having been given patience and the tools in the transfer market to have the squad that he really wanted, that people suddenly found them and started talking about them as a genuine threat to Manchester City. And that's what Ange Postecoglou is saying here. He's saying, sure, to win a trophy, to win some trophies would be great, but what I'm trying to put in process here is a long-term vision for sustained growth and sustained success. And that is something he's had to build from the ground up, because all of the work that had been done in that direction under Pochettino, where we'd got to that amazing place, was then undone by suddenly going for Mourinho and Conte and those win-now managers who didn't care about the future. Ange cares about the future. The club, Levy, Scott Munn, Johan Lange, they care about the future. And Ange is putting stuff in place for that. And I, for one, am here for it. Let me know what you think in the comments. So finally, just want to talk about how Harry Kane, and this is to do with the England match, which, of course, like I said, there's one tonight against Greece, but also Ireland on Sunday that I will be doing a live stream on BigUp for. The details of how to get to that link. Please come and join me and chat to me both on the chat and also call in during that live stream on BigUp. Details in the description box. But Harry Kane has revealed his disappointment with the number of England players who've withdrawn from the England squad this week. And for me, this shows excellent leadership from Harry Kane. I wanted to bring it up here because obviously he's potentially the biggest legend of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club's ever history, but also because I love this leadership and it's something that Spurs have been missing. He said Gareth Southgate brought the joy of playing for England back. Every camp people were excited to come, every camp people wanted to play for England, and that's the most important thing. I think England comes before anything. England comes before club. It's the most important thing as a professional footballer. Gareth was hot on that, and he wasn't afraid to make decisions if that started to drift from certain players. It's a shame this week. Obviously, it's a tough period of the season, and maybe that's been taken advantage of a little bit. I don't really like it, if I'm totally honest. England comes before anything and any club situation. Now, listen, I know a lot of you will not agree. You'll say that club comes before country. And listen, on a day-to-day basis, you'd say yes. But when it comes to those international tournaments, when it comes to those summers of getting to finals like we've been lucky enough to get to recently, I disagree. And your country, your patriotism comes first. And Harry Kane is just showing great leadership there. And I appreciate that about him. And I think Tottenham Hotspur miss that leadership. Let me know if you agree in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and listening, guys. Please do give this video a like. Please do subscribe to the channel for daily Tottenham Hotspur content if you don't already. And just one more time, come and join me for that England versus Ireland watch-along on BigUp. The details are in the description box below. Sunday at 5 o'clock p.m. And you know what? I will do a pre-match warm-up live stream on YouTube for the half an hour before. So we can talk on YouTube and then we'll all go across to BigUp together and do the live stream for the England game there. Okay, have a great rest of your day. Cheers.